Welcome and welcome back, everybody. Tabletop Toki here, and in today's live stream, we'll be previewing a new up-and-coming title from ButtonShy Games called Adventurous. During the course of the playthrough, I will give a tutorial about how the game is played, and be sure to stick around for the end of the stream where I share my first impressions of the game overall. A huge shout out to ButtonShy Games for sending a copy for us to preview and check out here today. But without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get started. So, in Adventurous, we are playing while we are roaming the seas, going on an adventure, going through encounters, and trying to complete these marvels. So for setup, we're going to start by placing out the ship card on the side of our choice. We can do Hunting Dusk, which is the base, or we can do the advanced rules. Today we'll just be doing the basic rules with no special abilities for our ship. In addition, you're going to select a difficulty based on how difficult you want the game to be. So today we're going to do the second difficulty, which is called Seasoned. And we're going to make our Marvel deck comprised of one level 1 or 2 level 1s, 2 level 2s, and 1 level 3 card. We're going to shuffle those up and put one off to the side with the Marvel deck next to it. We'll flip over all of those Marvel cards, as you can see on the back, and these will be our map cards, which we will shuffle and place off in a draw deck off to the side. And that's all we need to know for setup. So as far as the gameplay goes, on each of your turns, you're going to do one of two things. You are either going to explore or discover. When we explore, we're going to be adding onto our map by placing cards following these waypoints like so. So the first one will cover the first waypoint, and then subsequent cards can either connect waypoint to waypoint, or that waypoint can be placed along a valid line on the map. You can never overlap Marvel cards, nor our original ship card. The actual like waypoints and map lines cannot cross over one another or split off at any point. They all have to be one continuous path from our ship to the last waypoint placed. When exploring, we're always going to take the top card, and then we can choose to take the second card that we view, or we can take a random card from the bottom of the deck. The overall goal is for us to be able to get the longest route possible while getting these encounters, but managing how many we get and placing marvels. And that's our second option. When we place a marvel, it's going to cover certain areas of the map, kind of like so, but we'll have our full grid out. And we're going to have to cover the cost based in the bottom right corner. So like, for example, this floating island needs to cover at least 2 whirlpools in order for it to be a valid placement. Just like our map pieces can't overlap on other maps or overlap marvels, marvels also can't be placed on top of marvels or our ship, and they also can't intersect with these lines showing our adventure from beginning to end. So we will continue going between these 2 different actions until we've either placed all of our map cards or we don't have a legal placement, at which point that will be the end of the game. The first thing we're going to check is to make sure that we're within our encounter limit. So we're going to only be able to have 4 shark fins visible at the end, 3 of these tentacles, and 2 of these tridents. If we're within those limits, then we're ready to proceed to scoring. But if we have more of any of those icons showing, we will have lost the game. For final scoring, if we make it that far, we're going to get 1 point for each of these segments of our journey. So each of these little lines that's showing. We're also going to get 2 points per valid encounter of these 3 types. Whirlpools, on the other hand, will be -3 points for each one showing at the end of the game. And the last thing we'll look at is scoring our marvels. If we manage to place all 5 legally, we'll get 5 points. Otherwise, they'll be -5 points each. So that's about all we need to know to get started. You can see we have a lot of space here because I found that the map gets quite large, especially if we're going for our longest journey. So we're going to go ahead and start with a explore action. We have this card here, which has 2 shark fins. We need 2 whirlpools for the floating island, and the sea serpent needs any of 2 symbols plus a whirlpool, a shark fin, and the tentacles. So I do see some of those symbols here. And let's see, but this is going to be like this, and then we can't really group those symbols together. So we might pull one from the bottom of the deck and push our luck instead. One thing about the map cards is that you can orient them however you would like, as long as they're at 90-degree angles. The Marvel cards, on the other hand, have to be placed exactly as shown. So that makes it a little bit tricky. And let's see, if we place this here on the starting waypoint, we could continue on and get some good symbols there. But unfortunately, that makes it a little challenging to place because I believe, yeah, these cards are going to be covering 4 across. So that can't overlap with our starting ship. We could start building up though and see if we can circle around or something of that nature. These symbols are fine to have, like that could get us 4 points at the end of the game if they're still showing. So we might want to leave that kind of open and see where we go from there. And covering this whirlpool later potentially, or we can also make this route a little bit shorter and cover those symbols, thinking about we'll just leave those 2 as part of our end game scoring for the 2 encounters each. So maybe let's go ahead and try that and see what happens next. All right. So we have our next card and we have more shark fins, more whirlpools. If I was to place that, we could potentially get those 2 whirlpools covered, but it's not quite long enough. So I think we will maybe do something like that instead. And do we want more whirlpools? Maybe we might as well. Okay, so we'll take that card. Welcome to those of you joining. Oh yes, and I forgot to mention that this game, you can play it solo, but it can play up to 4 players, but it is a fully cooperative game. All right, so let's see. If I put this here, I can't cover those 2 whirlpools together is the problem. And if I put this overlapping, I also can't cover 2 whirlpools, but if I place it here, we can do the whirlpool, the shark fin, the octopus, and then we could place the trident and the shark fin for our other 2 for the sea serpent. So I think we'll do that and we'll continue building out down here. And again, we want it to be as long of a route as possible because each of these segments will gain us 1 point at the end of the game, provided we make it that far. So the next thing we're going to do is our first discover action. We're going to take the sea serpent. Again, we have our whirlpool, our shark fin, and our octopus tentacle, or I'm not sure if it's a kraken tentacle, our tentacles. And we have, it can cover at least 2 symbols here. So if I place this here, those are our 2 extra symbols. It's going to go in this exact orientation. Cover that part of our grid, which looks pretty good. All right. Now we've uncovered a whirlpool abyss, which needs any 3 symbols plus 2 whirlpools. Okay. So yeah, basically we are making one singular path. So all of these stars are called waypoints and they have to basically connect and be aligned on that path as we go. But how short or long we make it, as long as we stay in those constraints, we're good to go as far as the path is. All right, we have this card next. We need a lot of whirlpools together, which is kind of challenging. That does give us 2 whirlpools and 3 shark symbols for the whirlpool abyss. So I think we'll do that. And why don't we take this card that has a lot of different icons on it? So we're going to do that. And then we're going to place a marble here. So you might as well keep going out to the side. This is a very kind of like nice left to right grid that we have here. And then let's go ahead and do a discovery action. So whirlpool abyss, we have 2 whirlpools plus 3 other symbols, which we're going to cover there. Like so, and I think that works out pretty well. We're like at our maximum lengths here so far. All right. And we have the Triton now, which requires a trident as well as any 3, and it cannot cover any shark fins. Okay, interesting. And this is one of our level 3 marvels, so it's going to be a little more challenging. We do have a shark fin there, so that's not going to work out super well. And we have more shark fins here. But we could potentially get these whirlpools together. So I'm going to take this top card and let's see if we can get something over here. I could maybe place this so that the whirlpools are next to each other. That might be a possibility. So yes, I think we're going to go ahead and try that. And I'm going to preemptively try to relocate all of this down this way a little bit so we have more room. Like I said, this one can sprawl out pretty far based on, you know, where your path is, if it's very concise or like we're going kind of linear more or less. So we'll kind of work with that as we go. And I think what we said is we want to take this top card maybe to get some more of those symbols, although that is a lot of tridents that will be showing potentially. I think it will be okay. Famous last words. Maybe let's take the bottom card instead. Okay. that actually looks a lot better. So if we place this, oh, but then we cover the whirlpool. I forgot about that. Let's see, what could we do instead then? If we place this here, no. Here we could then cover both whirlpools, but that does shorten our route by quite a bit. So I think we could do this here like so. And yeah, it is 1 to 4 players, fully cooperative. And welcome, Dustin. So glad you could join us live. Thanks for making so many cool games. Really excited to try this one out and share it with everyone. All right, so we have our two whirlpools. There is a shark fin, so we can't place Triton. I'm thinking we might want to place the floating island, but we're covering up a lot of symbols. But I would like to see the next marble as well, especially because that Triton's going to be difficult to place. So before we do that, we do have to place this. I want to continue making some areas that we can have symbols. So we'll kind of go up that way. Let's see if we can get some of this glare off of there. There we go. All right, so let's place the floating island out. Again, covering up those 2 whirlpools. And we're going to reveal our last marble, which is the Shipwreck Isle, which needs any 1 symbol plus the tentacles. So we could put it up there and cover up the whirlpool, leave us with a trident potentially, but we can only have 2 tridents showing at the end of the game. So that might be something that we want to cover depending on what else we get. We're going to take this top card. We really need to figure out a way to place the Triton card though. If I go like this, that would be a trident. Yeah, that'll actually work perfectly because we'll cover both whirlpools, the trident, and then 1 more symbol, which counts as our 3, and there are no shark fins. So before we place that, we technically take another card. We might as well take this top card, or maybe the bottom card to see if we can get on an octopus tentacle. And then let's go ahead and place our Triton here. So again, trident or Triton, I should say. We have our tridents, our 3 symbols that are going to be covered like so. All right, and then we have this card that we were supposed to place technically. So let's try to make it as long as possible. Maybe we can cover up these symbols here, or the whirlpool at least if we go up. So again, I'm gonna move this down a little bit so we can kind of see where we're at. There. All right. And I might break this into 2 separate parts, knowing that this waypoint is together, just for the sake of getting this all hopefully on camera. So here is kind of where we're working with now. And we'll leave this bottom part down here, knowing that this waypoint is covered. Okay. And that's our connection point. Alrighty, and so our next one, we are going to think about whether we can place the Shipwreck Isle. I could, but I think I want to place these first. And also, we need to make sure that we only have the right amount of each encounter. So right now, we're maxed out on tridents, which we have 3 of 2, so we do have to cover one of these up eventually. Ooh, that's going to be challenging. We could do 1, 2, 3, 4. And we'll have to cover it with the Shipwreck Isle. So we just have to make sure we don't have more tridents, potentially, or do we want to place this here so we can cover up both? I think that's a safer bet in case there's another trident under here. For shark fins, we have 1, 2 showing. We know we have 2 more coming up. And then for our tentacles, again, we have 3, but we'll be covering 2. So I think we'll be okay. So let's go ahead and place out these last cards. 1, 2. We don't have a choice since there's the next card and the bottom of the deck are the same in this case. All right, and we want to try to minimize whirlpools as much as possible, although I don't think that that will be super possible. We can go here and these will all be covered by our shipwreck. And then we can get some more shark fins, which puts us at our maximum of 4. And we'll have a whirlpool, but then we don't really have a lot of the octopi or the tentacles or the tridents for scoring. However, it's better than having too many and outright losing. And I think we've done a pretty good job of placing our routes so that we're going to get a lot of points for our journey overall. So we're going to do our last discovery right here like so. Boom. we have at least a tentacle and one other portion or icon that we can cover. So that brings us to the end of our journey. I'm gonna put this up here a little bit. Alrighty, and we have completed our adventure, which, wow, what a long, impressive journey that we have, broken up into 2 parts. So we have our first act and our second act here. All right, and we're gonna move on to scoring. So the first thing we said is we're gonna check that encounter limit. So we can have up to 4 of those shark fins, which we only have 3, which is good. We can have up to 3 tentacles. We only have the 1 showing, which is good. And up to 2 tridents, which we only have 1. And we are looking good on having all of our marbles placed and everything. So we're ready to proceed to scoring. The original, or the first thing that we're going to do, like I said, is count 1 point for each path segment, which are those dotted lines. The waypoints do not count towards that. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So that's 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39. All right, so that's pretty great. So 39 points from that. We get our bonus 5 points for having all the marbles, which brings us to 34 points. And then we're going to score 2 points per each of our different symbols. So we have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, minus 3 for the whirlpool because those are negative, so plus 7. And I believe that puts us at 51 points. If someone is here live and can verify that that is correct, which puts us at a score of a marvelous adventurer. So there you have it. That is a playthrough of Adventurous. So overall, just thinking about this game, one of the things that I really appreciate is the aesthetic and how closely the feel of the game matches the theme. I think with a lot of tile laying games, it can be very easy to just kind of slap on a theme and say, okay, we have this mechanic of how these cards are going to interlace and overlap. But with this one, like being able to see your journey kind of being mapped out and is really, really fun. I think that as far as, table space, even though it's just an 18 card game for the base game, it can be a little bit unwieldy based on how much space you have available. So there are some tile laying games that are very dense and very concise. This one is really sprawled out, which I think fits the theme quite well. But that is one of the considerations, if this game is right for you or, traveling and things like that. That is one of the things that can be a little bit challenging, especially if you have your ship kind of starting somewhere and then you have to shift where that is. But I think overall it's pretty manageable in the playthroughs that I've had. Even with the constrained filming setup, it was pretty easy to just kind of shift things around a little bit and keep track of where we were with our waypoints. In addition to that, I would say that I know another consideration that a lot of people have with smaller card games or things, or, micro games, if you will, is the replayability. I think with this one, the replayability is pretty high from what I can tell after the first couple of plays. One of the big things that I haven't even gotten to try yet because I've just been having so much fun with the base game, or the base rules for our ship, is on the back. I kind of showed this during the setup. You can have actually different limitations that you have based on the level of marble that's on the top of the deck. So it's really cool that, that kind of changes the way that you can place things and gives you a bit of restrictions that may change throughout the game. And additionally, I just saw the question in the chat. Yes, all of the map cards have unique marbles on the back. So even if you're playing the same level of beginner quite a few different times, you can get different encounters each time. So you're looking for those different symbols, which is really interesting. And the scaling with the difficulty, I haven't had too much of a chance to try some of the really difficult ones yet. I believe there's beginner or novice, and seasoned is the one that I've been playing quite a few times to try to see if I could get that score of 50 plus. And now that we achieved that in the stream, there's also a veteran difficulty and a legend difficulty. So if you want something that's pretty light and easy peasy, you can go with that novice difficulty. And if you're really looking for a challenge, I think it would be very very challenging to bump it up and have more of those level 3 cards in there with more restrictions. So overall, really strong points as far as the theme goes, in terms of like the feel of the game and adventuring, getting to see the different marvels, the art, and how it all comes together. I think it's very whimsical, but very polished as well. And it really fits with the mechanics. And the replayability for this one, I think, is really high. It's also worth mentioning that relative to some other tile laying games that I've seen before, it's very unique that instead of thinking about sections of the tiles that you're overlapping here, I find that I'm really focused on creating that linear kind of path, which I haven't seen an abundance of with tile laying. Usually it's more like grid-based where you're thinking about those. But this one has a nice balance of, you know, managing the icons and this negative space in between, but really focusing on that path. So I think it provides a really interesting take on tile laying in a very concise package in terms of the materials. But again, one consideration is that it does take up quite a bit of table space once you get it out and going, which I wouldn't say is a bad thing. Like I said, I think it fits the theme, and I think it makes for a really impressive lineup when you're done with the game as well, and can kind of look back on your journey and look through the different marvels that you saw along the way. So those are my thoughts on this one, or my first thoughts on this one. I will be updating down below with the Kickstarter link and everything like that once that campaign is up and running, or in the time coming up to it. So if this one interests you, definitely keep an eye out for it. I've been having a lot of fun trying it out. And again, a huge thank you to ButtonShy for sending a copy for us to check out here together today. And that's about all the time we have for today. So if you enjoyed the stream, or if you enjoyed the video in the future, please feel free to give it a thumbs up. And you can also subscribe for more fun solo board gaming, as well as other board gaming content as well. It's been great getting to be here live with y'all here tonight. Thank you for joining live, and we'll see you next time. Thanks so much as always for joining me, and have a great rest of your night. Have a great rest of your evening, or whatever time it is, wherever you are. Thanks so much. Bye.